I'm very excited to welcome my guest to talk all about his podcast. Please welcome Jared Haibon.
Oh, Tanya, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be part of the show.
So you have a podcast that I am very familiar with and I love very much. It's called Help, I Suck at Dating.
Yes, it is. We usually record right after you, back when, we could be in studio and, see other people.
Yeah. So we used to share a studio. So I used to see you regularly. It's been a
Yeah,
minute,
it's been
but
way too long. It's very sad. I miss the old studio days. I miss seeing you guys. I miss seeing Easton and you and Becca and Dean. I haven't seen Dean. I co-host, so obviously I co-host the podcast with Dean. I haven't seen him in person for about a year.
isn't that wild? Like with technology that we're still able to do everything that we're doing, but just from a distance.
Just remotely here in my wife's glam room, which I'm surrounded by all these different Kardashian candles. My life right now. She has the whole set. She has Chloe and Kim and Courtney and Chris, and I'm surrounded by the Kardashians.
That is so good. Okay, so for everybody that's listening, you might know Jared from he was on The Bachelorette, and then you were on, just all the Bachelor,
Every show, really.
all the Bachelor shows. But he did end up finding love semi through the show with his wife, Ashley Iancanetti / Haibon. She took your last name, right?
Yeah, she hyphenated, so now she hasn't actually technically changed her name, so she's still Ashley Iancanetti, but it's Ashley Iancanetti Haibon.
I love that. Very modern woman of her. It's like she's still her own person, but she's bringing you on in her life.
Well, I feel bad because the Iancanetti name ends with Ash and Lauren, Ashley and her sister Lauren. So there's no men to carry on the name, so she wants to carry on. And it's such a good name, Iancanetti. How can you drop that?
I know, it's really, really good. But I love your love story. I love both of you very, very much. And we just celebrated Valentine's Day. Well, it's funny. Okay, I do want to get into the topic of you host a podcast called Help, I Suck at Dating, and you are happily married. I just want to say I love you and Ashley as a couple. I've seen you obviously in the wild together. And the admiration that you both have for each other is just so special and sweet. And I love it so much.
Well, thank you, Tanya. I think what really helped us was we built such a strong friendship. During the building of the friendship, there were some turbulent times, needless to say, if you followed our love story at all. And a lot of people questioning why we were friends but a lot of regret that I have not coming forward with my feelings earlier. But looking back at it now, I think that really formed the strong relationship we have now, because we have this incredible foundation that was built upon our friendship that our relationship blossomed from, that I think has created a really strong and healthy marriage today.
It's funny because I obviously was friends with Ashley before I met you. And the whole time I was one of those people, I was just like, oh, like, why doesn't he just want, like, yeah, like, why isn't Jared just like with you? I don't understand. You know what I mean? But it just goes to show you that like she followed her gut, her instincts, and it paid off. You know what I mean? And I think everybody's story is so different. You can't really compare anybody's love stories, and yours is so unique.
You can't. So many people are like, oh, they ask Ashley, they're like, I've been in the friend zone for years. How do I get out of the friend zone? And it's like, unfortunately, I don't know this person you're going after, so it's hard to know exactly what you should or shouldn't do. And you probably should or shouldn't do anything. You just have to listen to your gut and follow your heart, and whatever happens, happens. I mean, a lot of times, I think the biggest advice I can give for someone who's going through a situation where they're in a relationship that's undefined, or they're not sure if the person wants to be with them, just tell them how you feel and tell them what your goals are. And that's terrifying because you're risking possibly losing that person if you guys aren't on the same page, but at least you'll know and you can move on with your life, or you can pursue a relationship with this person.
Wow. Is that the type of advice that people get when they listen to Help, I Suck at Dating?
Constantly. Everybody asks, because to plug the podcast once again, myself and Dean Ungler, who's also a Bachelor alum, who is also in a relationship, host a podcast called Help, I Suck at Dating. Everybody's like, how can two people in a relationship host a podcast about being sucky at dating? And I got news for you. Just ask my wife. There are plenty of things that I still suck at within the dating world. Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you've perfected how to be a great partner. And so that's what we talk about on the podcast. We just try to become better every day. And we try to talk about whether you're single, in a relationship, married for 30 years, recently broken up with, like, everybody has their own story, and everybody's just trying to figure out how they can become a better person themselves to hopefully become a better partner. And that's what we talk about on the podcast.
It is interesting because I think that a lot of the time people, when they're single, it's like, I'm just trying to find my person, you know what I mean? And then they think like, oh, you find your person and that's it. Like I don't need to do anything else. When in reality, it's like when you find your teammate and your life partner, like you both have to grow together and learn together and like move forward together. And I mean, I'm obviously not married, so I don't know what that's like, but it is interesting because I think that there are a lot of tools that you can kind of, I think if you're not growing, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a lot of people put their happiness on external factors, whether it be somebody they love or things that they want to buy or the size of their house or so on and so forth. But I mean, as cliche as it is to say, happiness truly comes within. And the reason it's a cliche is because it also is true. And I feel like so many people go searching for their for like the person, like what did you just say? Not their person, but
Life partner?
life partner, when truly you are your own life partner. And I've really discovered that throughout my marriage with Ash, which is of course, like so much of my happiness is dependent on her, but like, you know, I truly feel kind of like half of a whole at this point, being with her for so long, that her happiness is so dependent on me and my happiness is so dependent on her, that like you kind of have to make, you have to be fulfilled within yourself and like bring happiness to yourself in order to make your partner happy, if that makes sense.
It's very true.
So it's hard to articulate, but that's something I've definitely discovered while being married.
Yeah, it is interesting because I do think that like a lot of people, I think we all go through things in life, whether it's loss or heartbreak or there's just so many different COVID. There's so many things that kind of can affect you. And there's something like everybody always says, like, how can you keep this like joy about you all the time? And I'm like, you have to just like I choose myself before anything else. You know what I mean? Like no one and nothing is going to affect the joy that I have within. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to waste a day
100%, because days are flying by and soon
flying
they'll be
by.
gone. And
Yeah.
yeah, Tanya, you are the most jubilant and happiest person I've ever met in my entire life. You first of all, you have
Jubilant.
a smile that just like lights up a room. I swear to God, like every time I'm with you, I immediately feel happier because you just radiate positivity.
That is
And
so
it's so
nice.
true. When I first met you, I was like, there is no way this girl is real. There is no way she is just like this happy all the time. And you are. And I think, for Ash and myself, following you on social media, listening to your podcast, being your friend, it's taught a lot to me about how things that I can do to make myself happier. And when I make myself happier, Ashley's happier and the people around me are happier, and it creates a better life. And those are things that certainly both Ashley and myself have learned from a lot of things, including you.
Oh, that means so much. Like honestly, it really, really does because I think that um, you know, again, it's just like I think it has to come from this thing, like it has to come from within. You know what I mean? Like you can't put your happiness into external, like you said, like a house or a car or even a person. You know what I mean? Like nothing in this world is guaranteed, and you really just have yourself. So it's like if you can be the best version of you, like how amazing of a partner is that? Like, you know what I mean? Like how amazing can you be in a partnership?
Totally. And you just create a better partnership.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, and I do it all the time. I throw myself pity parties and I sulk and I'm just sad, and it affects, my wife, and it affects our relationship. And so like, I've realized in my own life, and I need to do a better job of practicing what I preach, but of always being conscious of trying to put the effort in to make a situation better, whether that's, whether it's emotional with happiness or positivity, or even like financially. A lot of times I'm sure you don't get the job you want, or you're turned down for
Yeah.
a hosting position, and you're just like, oh, when is it ever going to happen to me? And it's like, no, you got to get out of that mindset, and I just got to move on and be like, okay, on to the next, on to the next. And I found that really helps with my overall mental health as well, because it adds that drive, of like, no, like I'm not going to stop. And it's I don't know. what we try to do.
It's one of those things where you focus, it's like kind of just saying the attitude of gratitude in a way, because you're focusing on what you have versus the things that you don't have or didn't get, you know what I mean? So it's like focusing on that. I actually did learn something the other day that I think that you would really enjoy doing as well. I just started doing it this week and I'm like wildly into it. So it's called Future 15. And so for 15 minutes every single day, you put in your calendar where you kind of just imagine your future self, like, and you get to pick if it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever that is. And you just envision everything in your life. So my thoughts kind of tend to wander out. So I've been writing for 15 minutes and I just literally write like where I see myself, who I see myself with, what I'm doing, where I'm living. Like it's actually really, really, it feels good because I try to be really present in the moment, but then this gives me 15 minutes to just imagine my future. And I've been really loving it.
That's amazing. And it sounds very therapeutic. I think I think a lot of people should do things like that. And I also think there's a lot of different things that people can do. Something that I do personally is I've been starting to do more breathing techniques. So I don't like working out. I work out because I have to, because I'm vain, but I hate working out. And so like I'll go to the park because obviously all the gyms are closed and I'm dreading it. And I'm the guy who's sitting in his car for 20 minutes being like, oh, I don't want to. And so what I've been doing is I'll just go outside and, you know, before a workout or post workout, I'll sit down for like 10, 15 minutes and go through these different breathing techniques. And it really centers me and it makes me like notice things that I wouldn't have noticed before. Like I'll just breathe for a few minutes and look up in the sky and be like, damn, it's a beautiful day. And then like I'll be at a park where people are just kind of working out or playing tennis. And it's like, it just, I don't know, it makes me really appreciate the things that I have in my life. It's something as simple as just breathing for 10 minutes and something as simple for you as just writing what your future plans are for 15 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like quarantine that's done it to me, because I don't think I've really been like ever like this, but sometimes like the other day I was just walking around like a different like a hotel property and just like seeing people out, obviously everybody's wearing masks and we're outside, but just seeing people just having fun and having drinks. And I literally felt like Buddy the Elf, just kind of like with my eyes like wide open, being like, wow, like life is so good. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, just because
like,
I'm seeing humans like out and about like normal again, you know?
Oh, it's so relieving. I couldn't agree more. It's comforting, you know?
Yeah.
It worried me in the beginning of the pandemic when everybody was saying, oh, we don't have to do anything in person anymore because Zoom and all these different FaceTimes and everything has taught us that everything can be virtual. And in the back of my head, I was thinking, I don't want that. I miss the days of being able to interact with people. And I do, as someone who doesn't like leaving the house, I agree with you. Going out and even just being in a hotel or something where people are kind of acting normal, it's like, okay, this is extremely nice just to see people and not just seeing people out.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm the same way. Like I really thrive off of being around people and other people's energy. And even if I'm like, just as I'm saying, like when I go outside for my sun runs, I just see people, you know what I mean? It's not even like, I don't need to be in a room. Like, I think obviously we are at the tail end of this pandemic. I'm really hopeful that things are moving in a good direction. And, yeah, but it is funny because I find myself like very much like Buddy the Elf, kind of with like eyes wide open, just like,
Run into coffee
wow.
shops with the signs that saying "World Best Coffee," and you're like, "You
Yeah, yeah.
did it!
Yes.
Best cup of coffee!"
Congratulations.
I can totally see you do that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time being with me today. I just adore you as a person. I love the podcast. Again, if anybody is listening and you need, if you're dating, if you need any sort of relationship advice, you can check out Jared's podcast. It's called Help I Suck at Dating. You can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. And then you guys do emails too, right?
Oh yeah, so people can email the show. It's isuckatdating@iheartradio.com. You can follow us on Instagram. We always post questions and we always love talking to people that listen to the podcast, because if it wasn't for the people who listen to the podcast, we would not have a podcast. So we greatly appreciate you. And once again, like Tanya said, you can check it out anywhere where you get your podcast, Help I Suck at Dating.
And what's your Instagram handle for anybody listening?
My Instagram handle is my name. I'm at Jared Haibon. A lot of my content revolves around sports. So, well, it's sports and Ashley. Maybe, Tom Brady's thrown in there once or twice. So,
Once or twice.
but yeah, you can follow me there if you'd like.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you again for the time. We love you.
Well, I love you. Thank you, Tanya.